Hello friends, today we are going to discuss the sovereign state system and its characteristics. We all know that the sovereign state system is a modern system where groups of nations in different continents come together and protect their sovereignty and territorial integrity. The sovereign state system has its origins in 17th century and it has grown itself in 18th and 19th century. By 20th century, the sovereign state system is fully expanded into almost all the continents of the world: Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, North America, Australia. So all the continents have experienced the emergence of sovereign state system. In today's lesson, we'll be discussing about the meaning of sovereign state system, its nature, its importance, and its characteristics, the characteristics of sovereign state system. And in the last, we'll also be discussing about the factors that contributed for the weakening and decline of the sovereign state system. So, international politics is viewed as politics among nations, as Hans Margantho has defined political science, particularly international politics, international relations, as a study of international politics as politics among nations. The very book that he has written itself is called Politics Among Nations, in which he defined international relations as a subject, the study about the international politics, the strive for the politics for power, politics for controlling power, and politics for enhancing their respective power. So international politics is viewed as politics among nations. So the study of international relations is called as international politics is called international relations. Nation state is regarded as the key actor in international relations. The nation states are nothing but the state, the government with sovereignty is called as a nation state. In the last class, we have discussed the very concept of nation state, and every country has its own political system and it claims itself as a nation state by virtue of two important factors. One is sovereignty and second one is nationality or nationalism. So sovereignty and nationalism are the two principal characteristics that makes the system as nation state system. So all the modern states have the nation state system in which all the nations have their nationalism in their respective territory from the people, and also the state enjoys the sovereign power. So here the nationalism is the patriotic feelings that are there in the people, the whole population, and the state having the power is called as sovereignty. The sovereignty is an entity of the state. It is the power of the state. It is the supreme power of the state for its citizens and their associations, and also its power to retain its political independence in the comity of nations is called as sovereignty. And among the people have the sense of belonging, sense of oneness, the emotional and psychological feelings of patriotism towards their nation is called as a nationality and nationalism. People with nationalism in a state are called as nation state. So nation state is governed by governments. So each government conducts the nation states, and nation states are the actors. They are regarded as the key actors in international relations. As we all know, in the United Nations Organization, UNO, there are 193 countries. All the 193 countries are called as nation states. And of course, there are also two observer states. So totaling 195 countries or 195 nation states are members of the United Nations. So all these nation states are the key actors in international relations. The term international relations was first used by an English philosopher, Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham in the 18th century has used the word international relations to denote the relations among the nations. The relations have two important forms, maybe the cooperative relations or conflict relations. The cooperative relations denote the peaceful relations among the states, and the conflict relations relate to the disputes, the border disputes, the trade disputes, the war, external aggression. So these are regarded as the conflict relations among the states. So both the cooperative relations and conflict relations denote the study of international politics, and this study of international politics is called as international relations. That's why the term international relations was first used by an English philosopher of 18th century, Jeremy Bentham. The nation state system of modern times is described as a sovereign nation state system. As I'm telling you right in the beginning, every state has its own sovereignty and nationality, nationalism. Sovereignty means the supreme power. Here we give the symbol of national supremacy, national sovereignty of India, the four lions standing on the Ashoka Stupa with a chakra. So this is how Dharma Chakra. This is a symbol of national sovereignty in India. And likewise, we have a flag. That flag denotes both the sovereignty and nationalism of the people. So the modern state system, which is also called as nation state system, is described as a sovereign nation state system. The sovereignty is the power of the state, and nationalism is an emotional feeling imbibed in the people. And the state having these two qualities is called as the sovereign nation state system. So sovereign state system started taking shape from the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648 onwards. There was a 30-year war in Europe between the supporters of the religious Reformation movement and the opponents of a Reformation movement. That's called as Counter-Reformation movement. The supporters of Reformation movement and supporters of Counter-Reformation movement met with a war that went on for 30 years. And at the end of 30 years, there was a peace treaty. And that peace treaty is called as the Treaty of Westphalia. So this Treaty of Westphalia has become a very milestone in the formation of national state system. And from that treaty onwards, the sovereign power of the state is recognized as a principal characteristic of national state system. So this is how the nations have emerged autonomous or independent from the yoke of religious leaders and other feudal lords in any society. Particularly in Europe in 17th century, the state system has attained its autonomy from the Holy Roman Empire, and it has separated politics and religion, and thereby the state has reclaimed itself, its sovereign power. So the sovereign power of the state is retained and regained from the religious empires and political empires. So this is how the Westphalia Treaty in 1648 is a milestone in the history of sovereign state system, where the nations have decided to have their own sovereignty, and the supreme power of the state or its citizens and their associations. And also the nations have decided to maintain their political independence. So the Treaty of Westphalia is regarded as a milestone in the history of the emergence of modern state system. And modern sovereign state system is strengthened by various treaties. Besides the Treaty of Westphalia, we have three more treaties, like in the 18th century, the Treaty of Utrecht, the Congress of Vienna, the Treaty of Versailles. So these are the four important treaties that are considered as milestones in the history of the emergence of sovereign state system. As I was telling you, the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648 has given rise to the principal characteristic of sovereignty to every nation. So all the nations have regained and reclaimed themselves the supreme power from the religious empires and feudal lords. So this is how the Treaty of Westphalia has endowed the nation states with the super quality of supreme power, that's called as the sovereignty. And the second treaty, which has come in the 18th century, that's called as the Treaty of Utrecht. So Utrecht is in Holland. So the Treaty of Utrecht, the nations have claimed themselves the principal characteristic or feature of territorial integrity. And all the nations have decided not to make external aggressions or wars against each other. And one should respect their own territorial integrity within the nation and neighboring nations. So this is how the Treaty of Versailles, the Treaty of Vienna, the Treaty of Utrecht, the Treaty of Westphalia, these are the four important treaties that have strengthened the sovereign state system. The Treaty of Westphalia is a treaty of 17th century, and followed by, in the 18th century, the Treaty of Utrecht. And in 19th century, the Congress of Vienna. The Congress of Vienna has decided to have diplomacy by every state, and this diplomacy is used as a tool to manage the crisis and to make peaceful negotiations in the context of wars, in the context of problems, in the context of disputes among the states. So Congress of Vienna has provided the international community with the tools of diplomacy. And lastly, the Treaty of Versailles, signed by both the victorious nations and defeated nations of First World War. And of course, this treaty is very often described as a treaty against the defeated Germany. So in this treaty, an international organization has come forward called League of Nations. And all the nations have agreed to adhere to the principles of international law. So each treaty has provided an important characteristic for the strengthening of sovereign state system. The Treaty of Westphalia has provided sovereignty. The Treaty of Utrecht has provided territorial integrity. The Congress of Vienna has provided diplomacy. The Treaty of Versailles has provided international law, international organizations, and adherence to international law. So this is how each treaty has provided one important characteristic to the principles of the sovereign state system, and they have strengthened the sovereign state system. So these are the four important treaties, and these four important treaties are considered as four milestones in the evolution, growth, and development of the sovereign state system in a very vibrant fashion in 20th century and 21st century. So the Treaty of Westphalia, the Treaty of Utrecht, the Congress of Vienna, the Treaty of Versailles. So these are the four important treaties that are considered as milestones in the history of the emergence of the sovereign state system. And here, we also see some of the philosophers here. So like the Niccolo Machiavelli, Jean Bodin, Thomas Hobbes, and Hugo Grotius. So these are the philosophers that have also gained, they have given the philosophical ideas and concepts for the growth and for the strengthening of sovereign state system. Niccolo Machiavelli has separated religion and politics, and Jean Bodin has recognized the importance of the concept of sovereignty or the supreme power of the state or supreme power of the government or the citizens and their associations. And Hugo Grotius is another important philosopher who has given the concept of external sovereignty, through which political independence is to be respected by each and every nation. So in the comity of nations. And likewise, Thomas Hobbes has recognized the legal sovereignty of the sovereign state. So this is how all the philosophers have strengthened the sovereign state system with their innovative ideas. In today's lesson, we'll have a lesson plan here. First of all, we'll discuss the sovereign state system, its meaning. Secondly, the factors that contributed for the emergence of sovereign state system. Thirdly, the features of sovereign state system. Fourthly, declining importance of sovereign state system. After that, we'll make a critical evaluation of sovereign state system. So this is the lesson plan. First of all, we'll be going by the meaning and nature of sovereign state system. As I'm timing and again telling you about the sovereign state system, it's a system evolved from 17th century onwards, and with the help of four important treaties, the Treaty of Westphalia, the Treaty of Utrecht, the Congress of Vienna Agreement, and the Treaty of Versailles. So these are the four important treaties that have strengthened the very foundations of the sovereign state system, which are also called as the nation state system or Westphalian state system. So sovereign state system and its meaning. After that, we'll be discussing about the factors contributed for the emergence of sovereign state system. And thirdly, we'll be discussing about the features of sovereign state system. And in the last, we'll also be discussing what are the factors that led to the decline and importance of sovereign state system before we conclude and we take a critical evaluation of the sovereign state system. So to begin with, we'll be discussing about the sovereign state system and its meaning. As I'm telling you, the sovereign state system is emerged in 17th century, and this system is also called as the Westphalian state system. First of all, it emerged in Europe, as we see all the European countries here. All the European states are becoming autonomous from the yoke of the Holy Roman Empire and from the influences and the dictates of Pope, and they have claimed their supremacy or the religion or the people or the economy or the society. So this is how the sovereign state system emerged in 17th century, which is also known as the Westphalian state system. The Westphalian state system is a result of the Westphalian Treaty, the Treaty of Westphalia, that was signed by European states in 1648. So it resulted by the end of a 30-year war among the European nations between the supporters of Reformation movement and the supporters of counter-Reformation movement. So as a result, there is a Westphalian Treaty in 1648, and this Westphalian Treaty has laid down the foundation for the emergence of Westphalian state system or the sovereign state system. So sovereign state system, which is also called as the Westphalian state system, emerged in 17th century. This is an important aspect. And later it has grown to various other areas of the world. First it emerged in Europe. The Europe map is here. Later it spread to America, North American continent, like Mexico, United States, and Canada. So these are called as the North American continent. But in 20th century, of course, it is also there in Australia, New Zealand, and other countries. And later, in 20th century, it spread to Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So this is how, first of all, it started in Europe. In 1648, the system is started in Europe, which is the result of the Westphalian Treaty of 1648. And later it spread to America, North American continent, where Canada, America, and Mexico have become sovereign states. And later it is spread to the very idea of having a national state system is spread to the Australian continent. But in course of time, in 20th century, the Westphalian state system is also entered into Asia, Africa, and Latin American continent. So first of all, it started with Europe. All the European countries are linguistically divided. English-speaking areas are called England, French-speaking areas are called France, Spanish language areas are called Spain, German language are called Germany, Italian language countries and regions are called Italy. So this is how, on linguistic basis, the countries are formed, and these countries have regained their supreme power and sovereign power from the political empires and Holy Roman Empire, Holy Christian Empire, and they have claimed themselves political independence from the Pope, the dictates of the Pope, and the dictates of feudalism. So this is the genesis of the emergence of sovereign state system in Europe. It has resulted in 1648 Westphalian Treaty. After that, it spread to a North American continent as a result of the revolutions of the 18th century, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and other revolutions, the systems in Canada and Mexico. So this is how the sovereign state system is spread to North American continent. Later it spread to Australian continent. But in 20th century, it has spread to Asia, Africa, and Latin American continents. So this is how the emergence of sovereign state system has its genesis in 1648 Westphalia Treaty. But later it spread to itself to all the continents, and it resulted in having 193 countries in the world as members of UNO. And now the sovereign nation state system is very vibrantly presented in almost all the continents of the world. So this is the development and growth of sovereign state system. And what are the objectives of sovereign state system? They have three important objects. One is the sovereign state system tries to protect its sovereignty. Sovereignty means supreme power. So sovereignty. And secondly, it tries to protect the territorial integrity of any nation. Territorial integrity. And thirdly, it protects the national interests of the respective states. So these are the three important objectives through which the sovereign state system acts upon. First of all, its main objective is to protect the sovereignty of the nation. Sovereignty means the supreme power of the nation, the supreme power of the country, of the nation, of the state, or the citizens and their associations is called as sovereignty. That's called as internal sovereignty. And maintaining political independence is called external sovereignty. So protection of sovereignty and sovereign power is the first and foremost important objective of the sovereign state system. And secondly, it protects the territorial integrity of the nations. And thirdly, it protects the national interests of the respective states. So these are the objectives of a sovereign state system. And what are the factors that contributed for the emergence of sovereign state system? As I am telling you in the beginning, there are 4 international treaties. The Treaty of Westphalia, the Treaty of Utrecht, the Congress of Vienna Agreement among the nations, and also the Versailles Treaty, the Treaty of Versailles. So these are the 4 important treaties. They are called as the 4 important milestones in the emergence of the sovereign state system. So the international treaties from 1648 Westphalia Treaty to Versailles Treaty of 1918, all the 4 important treaties have made a very reverberating contribution for the emergence of sovereign state system. This is one thing. Secondly, the decline of religious empires and political empires is another important reason for the emergence of sovereign state system. Previously, there were empires like the religious empire of Holy Roman Empire and the Ottoman Empire of Turkey, the Holy Roman Empire in Italy, and the Christian Empire, and also like political empires like the kings and kingdoms of the Romanov dynasty in Russia, the Habsburg dynasty in Germany, the Hohenzollern dynasty in Austria-Hungary, then the Khalifa dynasty of Turkey. So these are the political empires. So the political empires and the religious empires have declined their importance. Of course, the religious empire's importance is declined in the beginning of modern age itself, but political empires have crumbled down after the First World War. So after the First World War, the Romanov dynasty, the Habsburg dynasty, the Hohenzollern dynasty, or the Khalifa dynasty of Turkey, all of them have crumbled down. As a result of this crumble down of these political empires and religious empires, the decline of these empires, the sovereign state system emerged on the foundations of these empires. So this is how the decline of religious and political empires has led to the emergence of sovereign state system. And third one is growth of nationalism. So nationalism is grown among the people. The feelings of oneness, the emotional feelings of the sense of belonging, the emotional feelings and psychological feelings of patriotism are called as nationalism. And these nationalist feelings are grown in many countries. First of all, in Europe, the linguistic nationalism, and later it went to Americas, and later it went to the third world countries like Asia, Africa, and Latin America. That led to the nationalist movements led by various nationalist leaders in their respective countries. So growth of nationalism is an important factor that contributed for the emergence of sovereign state system. And also the philosophical foundations of scholars, as we have seen Niccolo Machiavelli, Jean Bodin, Hugo Grotius, Thomas Hobbes, Calvin, and others. So now let us see what are the features of sovereign state system. This is the crux of our lesson. First of all, the first and foremost important characteristic of sovereign state system is sovereignty. Sovereignty means the supreme power. The supreme power of the state over its citizens and their associations is called as the sovereign power. So sovereignty has two important dimensions. One is internal sovereignty. The other one is external sovereignty. Internal sovereignty means the supreme power of the state within its boundaries on all the citizens and all their associations is called as the internal sovereignty. The supreme power of the state or its citizens and their associations within a definite territory is called as internal sovereignty. And there is also another concept called external sovereignty. In the external sovereignty, the political independence of the country is to be stressed. And in the Comity of Nations, every country remains independent, politically independent, and it's not influenced by any other international factors or international neighbors or any other international entity in formulating its own policies or enacting its own laws. So every country is independent in matters of formulation of law, in matters of formulation of public policies, and every country remains independent. So this concept of political independence is called as external sovereignty. So modern state system has sovereignty as the first and foremost principle and important characteristic. So sovereignty is like a lifeline to the state. Sovereignty is like oxygen to a human body. A state is like a human body and sovereignty is like oxygen. So if the supply of oxygen is stopped, the human body cripples. Likewise, the sovereign power is stopped, the state also crippled down. So the sovereignty of state is equivalent to the oxygen to a human body. So it's a lifeline of the state and it gives life to the state. So that's why sovereignty is very important. And with the power of sovereignty, every nation state claims itself the power to enact the laws, the power to remain independent, the power to formulate its public policies and control the population. And it can also coerce the citizens if there is law and order problem, if there is criminality in the society. So the supreme power of the state or its citizens and their associations and the supreme power to remain independent in the Comity of Nations is called as the sovereignty. So this sovereign power makes the state different from all other voluntary associations in the society. In a society, you may have so many associations, but those associations may not have the power of sovereignty. But it is the sovereignty, it is the principle of sovereignty, it is the characteristic of sovereignty that separates the state with all other associations of the society. So having sovereignty as an important element, as an important characteristic, is an important feature of sovereign state system in modern times. And second one is territorial integrity or territorial impermeability. Territorial integrity or territorial impermeability. This is called protecting the borders. Every country has different borders and every country has the power to protect its own borders. And no other country should make an aggression or disrespect the sovereign territorial integrity of the other nations, or it makes any war. So every country has a right to protect its own territories. So the right to protect its own territories within the given definite borders is called as territorial integrity or territorial impermeability. So this is an important characteristic of the modern state system. And third one is nationalism. Nationalism denotes the sense of oneness among the people, the sense of patriotism among the people towards the nation. All the people show patriotism towards the nation. Of course, this nationalism has two important aspects. One is the positive nationalism. The second one is aggressive nationalism. The positive nationalism denotes positive patriotism of people towards the nation. Aggressive nationalism denotes, in addition to the psychological patriotism of the people towards their country, hatred towards the neighborhood and other countries is called as aggressive nationalism. And this aggressive nationalism was an important factor in Nazism and fascism in Second World War, and that have ruined Italy and Germany. So wherever the nationalism was positive, that's called as normal nationalism, and all the countries have benefited a lot from nationalism. So having nationalism, having the people with a sense of oneness, with a sense of belonging, with an emotional unity among the people, and having the religious, the patriotic fervor among the people is called as nationalism. And nationalism binds all the people in a very cohesive manner, and it brings law obedience and obedience to the state. The state gets legitimacy with the vibrant system of nationalism. So nationalism is a core in the system of sovereign state system. Of course, in modern times, nationalism is grown in almost every country, and all the nations have the symbols of nationalism, the sovereignty, territorial integrity. And nationalism is a very important factor in gaining political independence also. There are nationalist movements in different countries, like the national movement led by Mahatma Gandhi in India, Julius Nyerere in Nigeria, Kenneth Kaunda in Kenya, Nelson Mandela in South Africa, Sam Nujoma in Namibia, Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. So likewise, in every country, there is a great leader that has led to nationalist movement. As a result of these nationalist movements and the sense of nationalism among the people, all the countries have gained their political independence. And after gaining political independence, people have retained that emotional sense of oneness. And this emotional sense of oneness or the patriotic fervor among the people is called as nationalism. And that nationalism binds all the people in a cohesive manner, and it gives legitimacy to the state, and all people tend to be obedient to the state and obedient to the law. Law obedience and obedience to the state is a resultant of nationalism. So this is how sovereign nation state system have nationalism as an important factor. And fourthly, there are so many nations, and there is always legal equality or sovereign equality among the nations. Nations may have geographical variances. Some of the countries are very wide and running through so many kilometers, so many hundreds and thousands of kilometers of territory, like Russia, America, France, Australia. So these are the countries with a huge territory. And likewise, India is a country with huge territory. And compared to these big countries, there are also smaller countries like Tuvalu Republic or Samoa Islands, or in neighboring states like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. These are small countries. So though there is a variance in territory, the geographical variances in geographical area between the states, but there is always legal equality among the nations. There are 193 countries in United Nations. So all the 193 countries have virtual equality or sovereign equality among themselves. That's called as legal equality. In terms of voting rights in the United Nations, or in terms of raising various issues for discussion in the United Nations. So this is called as the legal equality or sovereign equality. So this power is also is called as an important characteristic of sovereign national state system. And after that, all the countries in the world have power politics. Every country wants to become powerful. It wants to enhance its national power. It wants to become a superpower. And it also claims to be a regional power, a national power, an international power, a superpower. So this is how power politics is an important characteristic of sovereign state system. And in the power politics, we see there are the emergence of certain regional powers in every continent, like China, India, Japan, or some of the Asian powers. And likewise, Australia, New Zealand are regional powers in the Australian continent. Likewise, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Zimbabwe are some of the regional powers in the African continent. Likewise, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Argentina are some of the powers in South American continent or Latin American continent. Likewise, right from 17th century to the present day, England, France, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, these are some of the nations that are fighting each other with power politics, and the claim for power and the claim for the supremacy of the other, that's called superpower, the position of having a superpower among the competitive nations. So the fight for power and the efforts to make one power to become more and vibrant national power and to claim its seat as a regional power and to acquire itself the status of the regional power or superpower is called as power politics. In course of power politics, we see there are so many wars, of course. In fact, the Europe has experienced a power politics and power struggle between England and France, 1,000 Years' War. And likewise, there is always power politics between China and Russia. And there is power politics between America and Russia, America and Soviet Union, that led to Cold War. So these are called as the power politics. And in the sovereign nation state system, every country tries to acquire power and strengthen its national power with its military strength, with its economic strength, with its ideological strength, with its political stability and political strength, and with strategic strength by acquiring strategic arms and various other things. So this is how power politics is an important factor of sovereign state system. And another important feature of the sovereign state system is every country tries to protect its national interests. On the one hand, it tries to claim its supremacy over the region or different nations in the world. On the other hand, it also tries to protect its own national interests. So protecting national interests, the interests of the country, interests of the people of the country, is also another important reason for the sovereign state system. And another important feature is balance of power and collective security. All the modern countries, modern nation states, modern sovereign states, makes power alliances or strategic alliances among themselves, and they make balance of power. One alliance is balancing the powers of other alliance. There may be two counter alliances, and each balances itself, and no power is permitted to go beyond the balance. So likewise, we have NATO alliance and Warsaw alliance. NATO alliance led by the West European countries in America, and Warsaw alliance led by Russia and other its allies. So this is how we have ASEAN, we have SAARC, we have Organization of African Unity, OAU, European Economic Community, and various organizations. So this is how the balance of power denotes a group of nations try to balance their power with the powers which are against to them, with the powers which are form another alliance against them. So this is how balance of power is there. And most importantly, there is another concept called collective security. And 20th century is the century of collective security. On the basis of the concept of collective security, we have United Nations system, UNO. So UNO is considered as a body that protects the system, that protects the countries in a very collective manner. That's called as a collective security. So collective security and balance of power are important features of sovereign state system. In fact, the balance of power is a principle that balances the power alliances, one alliance against other, alliance of nations. So the balance of power is there right from 17th century onwards, but collective security is a conglomeration of all the nations in the world giving security to a weak country that is facing threat from another important predominant country. So this is called as the collective security. And this is an important feature of the sovereign state system. All the sovereign states have adhered themselves to the principles of balance of power and collective security. And after that, all the countries have decided to follow the principles of diplomacy. Diplomacy means peaceful resolution of conflicts with negotiations, with the discussions, with the meetings. So this is how all the nations resort to discussions and negotiations and employing the ambassadors, high commissioners, convoys, and various other important foreign officials, foreign affairs officials. So this is how all the countries employ officials, and some of the political leaders also involved in diplomacy and making discussions with the countries with whom they have the problems and crises. So to manage the crisis in a peaceful way, we have the tools of diplomacy in modern times. In fact, the 1815 Vienna Conference has sown the seeds for having diplomacy in all the countries, and it has also given a code on maintaining foreign officials in the respective countries like ambassadors, envoys, and various foreign officials of that respective country in other countries. So this is how diplomacy is seen as an important element for peaceful resolution of conflicts with the help of discussions and negotiations. And after that, modern sovereign state system also has the feature of international law. Adherence to international law is also another important aspect. Here we see United Nations organizational building. So United Nations is the organization that formulates the international law, the Security Council, General Assembly, ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council. So these are the agencies and bodies that formulate the international law, and adherence to international law is an important feature of sovereign state system. So these are some of the important features: sovereignty, territorial integrity or territorial impermeability, nationalism, legal equality and sovereign equality, power politics, national interests, balance of power and collective security, diplomacy, and adherence of international law. So these are the important characteristics of sovereign nation state system. But in spite of these important features, the modern times is experiencing the decline of sovereign state system due to various reasons. In fact, the importance of sovereign state system is slowly declining in the modern times, particularly from 20th century and 21st century, particularly from 1980s onwards, 1990s onwards, where the trends of globalization are very rampant throughout the world. So the liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So LPG system. Due to these trends, the importance of sovereign state system is slowly declining. Now let us see how and what are the factors that led to the decline of the sovereign state system. One is, there is a lot of interdependence among the states. In fact, there are 193 countries. No country is self-sufficient. Each country has to depend on others for its survival, may it be for food grains, may it be for security, may it be for economic needs. So every country cannot fulfill all its needs by itself. It has to depend on other countries. As a result, there is an increased interdependence of one country or the other countries. So this increased interdependence has led to the decline of sovereign state system. Somewhere the countries have to compromise on their sovereign power. And secondly, the trends towards regional integration. There are also trends, particularly from 1975 onwards, where there are so many international regional organizations are coming into vogue and becoming very powerful. For example, in South America, South American States Association. In North America, North American States Association. In South Asia, we have SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, started by Mujibur Rahman of Bangladesh. And from 1985, it started. Till now, it has become a powerful agency in resolving the regional disputes and enhancing the rural trade, regional trade. So this is how there is regional integration. All the Southeast Asian nations have formed what you call the Southeast Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, ASEAN, 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 Southeast Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, Southeast Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Asia, and likewise oil producing countries, they have an organization. Likewise, the Gulf countries have an organization. So there is always a kind of regional integration. All the countries in a particular region have formed into an alliance for economic interests and for strategic interests. So these trends of regional integration also led to the compromise on sovereign state system and sovereign power of the state. As a result, the importance of sovereign state system is it will decline. And third one is universalism and international integration. So just like the regional integration, we also have we have been experiencing universalism and international integration. There are international agencies like World Bank, WTO, IMF. So these are the agencies that are integrating all the countries into one fold, and that is led to the universalism. We have universal principles of trade and commerce now. We have agreements on intellectual property rights. So we have agreements on so many other things. So all the international principles, international trade, commerce are controlled by WTO agreements, WTO provisions. And likewise, all the financial transactions, exchange rates are regulated and controlled by International Monetary Fund. And International Bank of Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, which is also called as the World Bank, is giving loans to the poorer countries and having the power to help others, help the nations extend its financial aid, economic aid, and providing short-term loans, long-term loans. So this is how, when the countries are dependent on international organizations for their economic survival and for the economic growth and development, so they need to adhere to the principles of international organizations. Then they may have to compromise on their sovereign state system, the principles of sovereignty. For example, the World Bank insists on some conditionalities while providing a loan. If the World Bank has to provide a loan to the sovereign nations, it puts some conditions that all the governments should reduce their government staff, government employees. So that's, and every government should see to it that there is no child labor in the country. And every country should protect the environment. So these are some of the conditionalities of the World Bank, IMF. So accepting these conditions, all the countries are getting loans. So this is how, to some extent, the nations have lost their freedom and sovereign power in adhering themselves to the universalism and integration, international integration. And likewise, we also have nuclear politics in the recent past. And there are also nuclear haves and nuclear have-nots, those with the nuclear arms and strategic weapons, and those with the uranium deposits have become nuclear haves. And those countries which do not have the strategic weapons are still dependent on superpowers for their nuclear arms are called have-nots. So the countries are all coming into one fold, like signing of a CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban treaties, nuclear non-proliferation treaties. So these are all coming under nuclear politics, and nuclear politics is another area where a country has to lose its sovereign power and compromise for its nuclear interests on the international superpowers. So these are some of the important factors. And there are also limitations on national power. And every nation, though it is economic power, strategic power, political power, religious power, it has its own limitations. So some countries may have natural resources, but they do not have the expertise to exploit the natural resources. They do not have the technical know-how. And likewise, some of the countries which do not have natural resources, but they have the manpower. And some countries may have the capital and financial resources, but they do not have the human power or human resources or natural resources. So that's why every country has its own limitations of national power. As a result, to acquire all the powers in a very comprehensive manner, so the countries have to recognize, compromise themselves with their neighboring countries or other countries. So there are so many limitations on national power, and that is also led to the compromise and sovereign power of the state. And this is also another important factor that led to the decline of the sovereign state system, declining importance. And of course, erosion of the concept of sovereign equality of nation states. So theoretically, there is a concept of equality among the nations, but at an empirical level, still some countries are very powerful and some countries are still lagging behind. If we take our own world today, America, Russia, China, Japan, India, England, France, these are the countries which are considered to be on the upper side. They are on the upper pedestal, and they have the high quality of power, and they have attained a lot of national power. But the remaining countries are very poor, and some of the countries are not in a position even to pay their national subscription or annual subscription to United Nations and some of the global organizations. So this is how there is a vast economic disparity between the countries. There is a vast geographical disparities among the nations. So this is leading to a lot of inequality among the nations. Though the very concept of sovereign equality is theoretically assured, but in practice, at an empirical level, this equality is missing. And this is leading to all the poorer nations dependent upon the superpowers or the growing and prosperous countries. So as a result, the poorer countries have to compromise themselves on their sovereign power and have to depend upon the prosperous nations. And lastly, the rise of powerful national state, non-state actors. In the recent past, there are certain non-state actors like the multinational corporations, the human rights groups, and the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, the civil society organizations, which have become the non-state actors, and human rights organizations. So these organizations and these associations and these institutions, these corporations are virtually taking over the mandate of the people into their hands, and some of them are even manipulating the mandate of the people. And some of the multinational companies are in a position to topple the politically elected governments and establish their own puppet governments in different states. And some of the transnational corporations are in a position to manipulate the elections also, the civilian elections in different countries. So these non-state actors, particularly the multinational corporations, the transnational corporations, the civil society organizations, the non-governmental organizations, the human rights groups. So these rise of these non-state actors at the cost of the sovereign states' powers. So all these non-state actors have become very dynamic, and to that extent, the state is losing its dynamism and sovereign power. So these are some of the important factors that contribute for the declining importance of sovereign state system. Particularly the role of multinational companies and transnational companies, transnational corporations in the decline of national state system, importance of, and particularly impact of globalizations on international financial institutions like World Bank, WTO, IMF. So they are the global organizations. They claim for universalism and international integration. They suggest, they influence, they pressurize the governments on the enactments and policy formulations. So as a result, the independence of the countries is severely affected, and the smaller countries have to play to the dictates of these organizations. So the impact of globalization and international financial institutions like World Bank, WTO, IMF are also the reasons for the decline of sovereign state system. So sovereign state system, if we make a critical analysis of the whole sovereign state system, it provides the nation states as active actors. It recognizes the nation states as active actors with dynamism. In fact, every government is a representative of nation state with sovereign power and territorial integrity and nationalism. And nation states are very active actors in the international politics and international relations. Still, all the countries have their own respective governments, and nation states are playing a very dynamic role. And sovereignty also cannot be compromised, and many of the states prefer to enjoy their sovereignty, prefer to maintain their sovereignty than compromising themselves on their international issues or problems. But territory is still as an intention of contention, issue of contention among the nations. And some of the nations are very big territories, some of the nations are very small. So as a result of this, smaller countries have to depend on bigger countries, and this is leading to the decline in the nation state system. And protecting the national interest enhances the role of sovereign state system. In fact, the sovereign states are protecting the national interests. As a result, people's confidence in the government, people's confidence in the nation state is enhancing. But in spite of these positive points, the 20th century and 21st century witnessed the trends of globalization, and these trends of globalization and role of transnational companies, multinational financial institutions, international financial institutions, multinational corporations, transnational corporations, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, human rights groups, non-state actors have declined the importance of the nation state system, which have weakened the nation state system. So friends, this is all about the features of nation state system. The nation state system still is a force to reckon with, and it is still a state actor, in spite of having the fact that the non-state actors are also getting dynamism and become vibrant. So nation state is an entity that comes to stay for permanently in international politics, and nation states have certain important factors, and we have discussed everything. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you.